Good morning, my name's Mandy and welcome to What Mandy Made Next. Today is Tuesday the 4th of March 2025 and this is a vlog all about my crafting endeavours involving fibres and thread. So if you want to catch up with me you can do so on Ravelry. My username is Pickety Stitch and on Instagram What Mandy Made Next. Today I'll be sharing with you some of my makes from February, and so I'm going to show you a sneak peek now of my February planner, which I downloaded from the Fat Quarter shop, the free downloads. Fantastic. Right, so as you can see from my February planner, if we start on Saturday the 1st, I've allocated 3 days to the rose quilt. Now you may recall I made a cushion and I started a quilt in January from this book. It's called Quilt a Gift and it's by Barrie Sue Gaudet. So let me just show you the cushion just to refresh your memories. Here we go. So this was the cushion. I love this, and it's got these little yo-yos on and applique leaves. So I use this fabric. It's by Bonnie Sullivan. Let me just show you the fabric here, a little bit more detail. It's called Ruby, and then I had the contrasting fabric in this colourway here. So I lined the cushion with this. So this time I finished the rose quilt. I think last time I spoke to you I was sort of halfway through making it, and here it is. It's just a very small quilt. There we go. And this goes on the back of my sofa. Keep saying sofa, it's settee, isn't it? I don't know when settee became obsolete from a vocabulary, I don't know. But anyway, back to this little quilt. Yeah, we got the little yo-yos again, and what I've done is I've used the same fabrics for the yo-yos in this quilt as I did in the cushion. I've also picked out the cushion cover fabric, and I've lined the back with the contrast. So I'm really happy how this has turned out. Now this is a simple, what I call a railroad fence block pattern, but it has got the set-in triangles. And if I remember whose tutorial I watched, because I do have a bit of a problem mathematically, I do, with putting in set-in triangles. So I watched a video on YouTube and I'll pop a link into it because it was really good how she set a quilt out and the triangles when you come to piece it together. So anyhow, there we go. It does take quite a bit of time to make this because not only have you got to make all the yo-yos, you've got to stitch them on, stitch your applique your leaves on, and then also stitch, you might see there, these little tendrils. So you've got to embroider those on, and the stems, you see. Now there is a couple of fabrics in here. Oh, there's one what I didn't use in my cushion, and this is this green one. And I did notice in the book on the quilt she had used a couple of green fabrics, so I used this one from the Tilda collection. It's a Tilda fabric. I'm afraid I can't remember which collection this was from, but I just thought it brightened it up a little bit. So there we go. So yeah, I'm really happy how that turned out. So I allocated all my Mondays to a mini project and I chose the spring lampshade. Now this is a kit from Liberty Bell, which is an online shop in the UK. Now you may recall in January I was making the winter apron for my Angels Amongst Us. Yes, this is another kit from Liberty Bell, but it took me quite a few days to make this. because I hand stitched all the applique, so I thought, well, I'll give myself all the Mondays in the month to make the spring lampshade. Here is my spring lampshade. So this is a lamp from B&M, which is a store in the UK. If you can't get this particular lamp and you want to make these lampshades, there is a tutorial on YouTube how to make a lampshade cover. So then, as long as it was big enough or small enough to fit on all your applique shapes, you should be okay. So she does sell the lampshade kits. There's one for each season. I think I've only got to make the autumn one now, and I've completed all my seasonal lampshades. So let me show you a little bit closer. I don't think I've done the join too good there, but there's the sheep. Now I did space these out a little bit too much, so that left me little room for the rest of the applique, so I had to make my fence a little bit shorter, so they're a bit closer together, the you know, the fencing, the pickets. But there we go. Love the house. This is my favourite, the bunny with the little cart there and the carrot patch sign with the carrots. I did make an alteration to this. I didn't use the fabric in the kit for the tree leaves. I used green wool felt. I just think it's easier, and I just stitched those on by machine. Same again with the sheep. I used some wool felt again. I thought it was easier. And I embroidered the leaves on the carrots. So yeah, I think it's really pretty. So there we go. Okay. Right, let's pop that back there. Although it's not spring now, we may as well leave it on because it will be in a couple of weeks, won't it? Right, on a Tuesday I have put HRH cross stitch. Now this is my hooks run hollow, so I'll give you a quick flash of the picture. It's by Carriage House Samplings, and the actual title is A Year at Hawk Run Hollow. Now we all know that I'm stitching it this way because I made a little mistake. Well, I wouldn't say little, that's a huge one. I'm stitching this on an 18 count vintage country mocha or mocha, whatever you want to say, on an Ada or an Aida. But here we are in all its glory. It's really growing now. Now last time I spoke to you, I just finished the block for, let me stand up, it's better. I'd finished a block for September. I will take a photograph so you can see this closer up. And I just started the October block, and this is how far I have got. So yeah, Cauldron's taking quite a bit of work because that bit is full coverage, but I'm still enjoying this. I think what it is with, I love this, but it is a big piece. I mean, this is an 18 count, which equates to that'll be a 36 on linen. If you're stitching 2/2, this is, you know, it's quite sizable. In fact, I'll just measure it against my board here. We're talking nearly 21 stitches across. And that's going to take up quite a big frame, and I haven't got a lot of wall space. So that reminds me, I have a question. Has anyone stitched 1/1 on linen, or is it only even weave you can do that on? I'll be grateful if you can tell me in the comments, because I've never stitched with one thread, which is no biggie, that's okay, but I want to know if you can stitch 1/1 on linen. So I was watching Sherry the other day, the Colorado cross stitcher, and she was doing, oh, is it As High as on the Sparrow by Heartstring Samplery. Now I've purchased that, not realising how big that one was, and I was thinking, crumbs, I'm going to have no wall space. And she was stitching it 1/1, but I think it was on an even weave. What I want to know is, anyone stitched 1/1 on linen, or is it just even weave you can do that with, or you can't do it with Ada. I think you can do it with even weave. But a lot of people say if you stitch 1/1 on linen, the stitch can lose itself, something in the thread. So if anyone out there can advise me, please comment below. Have you ever stitched 1/1 on linen, or do you know if you can? Because if you can, that's what I will stitch my next piece on, 1/1, because I need to get them smaller, and I tend to choose big pieces. So getting back to Susie, she's got these beautiful cross stitch. It's a hands across the sea design, absolutely lovely. And she did say, you know, she was itching to stitch on this particular design, and I thought, and I did comment and say, actually at our time of lives we should be able to stitch on what we want, shouldn't we? At the moment I'm enjoying this. If I have a little bit of a hiatus because I get a little bit fed up, then so be it. I'll pull out another project. So of course that got me a little bit excited when she was showing these lovely cross stitch projects, and I thought, you know what, why is it that I'm still in this mode where I want to monogamously stitch? You know, I don't like having too many projects because I get overwhelmed. But why should I? Why should I get overwhelmed? I can't understand why. I think one of the things is, when you have a lot of cross-stitch projects, is it slows you down. Because when you pull out different projects, you've got to get used to a new key of, you know, for your colours. So you might be stitching an X might mean to use black, but in your next project it could be denoted as a black square. So that's the only thing I would say. You've got to get used to your threads again. But yeah, I've got so many cross stitch patterns and I just want to stitch them all, that I thought, well, I'm going to throw a bit of caution to the wind. So when I upload my planning vlog, you'll see that I'm no longer going to put HRH cross stitch. I'm going to just put cross stitch, and I might just choose any pattern, because you watch the floss tubers and sometimes they'll show you these patterns and the next vlog you don't see them. They're stitching on something else, and I'm thinking, in a minute, I'm sure you were stitching this the other week. So yeah, it's a bit of excitement that is for me. I'm thinking, yeah, why shouldn't I, you know, broaden my horizons a bit and stop this, you know, getting stuck in this. You should only have 1 or 2 projects. Right, the next thing, so on Wednesday I like to work with wool, and it's either crocheting usually or knitting. And I have been knitting, and we all know the saga, don't we, with the old Peter Pan Darling wool. Here's my project bag. It's looking a little bit full, which is good news, because I was knitting this, and it's I was working it out the other day. I think it's about 47 years old, this pattern. I mean, look at all, it's got brown staining on it now. Really old. I'm trying to preserve it because you can see where I folded it. And, you know, the writing is, I think it was there, is dimming a little bit. You know, the print. I'm going to have to be careful. So this was for a 16-inch chest, and it was this lovely little lacy jacket, which I've knit many a time, and I still get stuck with the pattern, but never mind. And yeah, I just love this little jacket. So I've knit this for my newest granddaughter, Mabel, and here we go. Now I've got to block it. Well, I don't block acrylic. You don't block acrylic. You just use a hairdryer. But I haven't got one. It burnt out. I've not replaced it yet. So I'll perhaps try and gently steam it. But it just has 3 little buttons on, and I haven't put the buttons on yet. But I am classing this as a finished article. I'm really pleased with the hood. Let me show you the hood. Look at it's gorgeous. So the instructions for the hood is you knit it all in one. So you pick up your stitches, you know, and you knit it all in one, and then what you do is you bring it together, right sides together, and you seam it. Well, what I did is I kitchen stitched it together. So yeah, quite pleased. No visible join there. So yeah, isn't it lovely? I love the pattern. It's a classic, isn't it, that one? The only thing I would say is I'm not fond of the arm, you know, the sleeves. These are what you call drop sleeves, but set-in drop sleeves. And I don't like set-in sleeves. I like raglan, that's my favourite. Or knitting the round, but my favourite's raglan. But there we go. Now I did have an Alice in Wonderland moment with this yarn. So, as you all know, I accidentally ordered too much. So we got bigger. And when I was knitting with it, I come across a little knot, you know, where they knot it sometimes. And it was in the middle of the sleeve and middle of a row. And I thought, oh, I'll just carry on, it's fine. And when I started my next row, I noticed the yarn had got thinner and thinner and thinner until it was really probably a 1 ply. And I thought, what's gone on here? So hence the title, Alice in Wonderland yarn, because it just got smaller and smaller, so it shrunk. So yeah, I had to rip that back and start a new ball off. Still got quite a bit left, and as we know, we've got all that left, so that will be used for another project. And I'll carefully put this pattern away now. Put it in a plastic sleeve, I think, to preserve it. So yeah, don't know what that's meant to be. Whether one of the kids or I've done that, a little face, I don't know. But isn't it funny? You can see where I've written. I used to do that. Who used to, and I used to do this in the 80s. Oh gosh, I can't even open it. Fingers. Used to use this. So say it said knit 5 inches. I used to measure with this. Oh dear. I mean, now I'm more sophisticated. Now I've got project bags and rulers and tapes, measures and things. Right, let's carry on. I digress. So I've also got one more knitting project to share with you. So you know, at Christmas I purchased a knitting machine, and it's an LK 150 by Silver Reed, and I've got quite a stash of double knitting wool. Oh gosh, that's one of my needles what broke. I'll pop that over there. I bought quite a stash of wool from a craft shop that was closing down, sadly closing down. So yeah, I got all this wool. Oh gosh, it was less than half price if I remember. So I've bought a knitting machine that actually knits double knitting, because years ago I had one that only knit 4 ply and it limited me a lot. So I'm using this book here. It's the Ambud Book of Sweaters. So basically you choose your size, your tension, and there you've got your pattern. So unfortunately the raglan patterns are knit in the round, and I need to knit flat because knitting machines will not knit in the round, it's a flatbed. So I'm just going to work out how I can do that so I can knit raglan, because that's my favourite. As you know, I don't like drop shoulder, which I'm having to do at the moment. I've also used this book, and it's the 150 Scandinavian Knitting Designs. It's by Mary Jane Muckleston. So I had a little play, you know, at Fair Isle, and there we go. I mean, in the book it had leaves and everything, but I thought I don't want to, you know, make it too difficult my first attempt. So I don't think it's turned out too bad. So I thought I'll just make a little practice, you know, and I've made a little cardigan. So again, like I say, it's the drop sleeve, but there we go. That's the cardigan so far. Now, she came up the other day, my granddaughter did, for a visit, and I tried it on her and the sleeves were a little tight. So I'm still using hand knitting needles for the sleeves, for the rib, because the knitting machine only knits and purls, you see. So it only does stocking stitch. Well, I mean, it does fancy stitches like tuck and all that, but for rib you have to ladder the knitting down while it's on the machine and use a latch hook, because only the purl side shows to you, see. So if you knit a few rows and you want it as rib, you'd knit it at a tighter tension, and then you get your latch hook, ladder the stitch you want as a purl, and then as a knit, and then latch it up. And it's a little bit fiddly for me, so I thought, well, I'll just hand knit the rib. But I'm going to have to undo that and use a stretchy bind off, I think. And then I've just got to knit round the ribbed bands, so I'll perhaps get onto that tonight. Well, it won't be, it's not wool, is it? It's Wednesday tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow. And that's finished. So that's all the wool. So Thursday is my WIPGO 2025 day, and that's when I work on my WIPGO project. If you want to know more about WIPGO, please go onto YouTube and just search WIPGO and Jessie Marie Style, and she'll come up and explain in her video all about it. Or you can go onto the Facebook group and just put in WIPGO and it should come up. So the two numbers that were called in February, I'd allocated this pattern for both the numbers, you see. And I thought, oh good, it'll get finished. And it's called All Things Grow With Love, and it's by Primrose Cottage Stitches. I used call for threads from my stash, and I also had the Lugana, which I'd bought from another craft shop which was having a sale. So yeah, it worked out quite inexpensive to stitch. It was on a 28 count if I remember, and I'll just flash a picture up here of that. I showed you that in my last vlog, but there was also a bonus pattern on the back for a little small, and I want to make more smalls because I have just not got the room, the wall space. So here is the small, and I finished it. So let me just get my board. I had a little scrap of linen. It was a 32 count Belfast, so there we go, I stitched it. So this is Strawberry Cottage. It's pretty. So what I'm going to do is I'll overlock up that side. If you haven't got an overlock, you can always use a zigzag stitch, or if you haven't got a sewing machine, you can blanket stitch, can't you, round the edges. But I'm lucky enough to have an overlocker. And then what I'm going to do is make my little small up. There are tutorials if you go onto YouTube, the Primrose Cottage Stitches. There's plenty of tutorials on how to make pillows. They've fashioned this, by the looks of things, they've put it on some board, haven't they, with some rickrack behind, and then stuck it to a little chopping board, which I could do something similar, I suppose. I don't know yet how I'm going to finish it. I quite like that idea. I'm not too much into big trims and things, but yeah, I've enjoyed stitching this. And I'll say something else about Primrose Cottage stitches. If you go on their YouTube, which is fabulous, because they've got so much, you know, so many tutorials, and it's absolutely a beautiful channel. But also, if you go onto their website and sign up to their newsletter, I think they send a bonus free pattern every month, and I think one's for quilting, and I think one's for cross stitch. Now I'm not sure if it's every other month, you know, they alternate. I'll have to I've only just signed up, so I'll let you know. But I had a free quilt pattern the other day, so I thought that was really good. And most cross stitch sites will have freebies on, which I'm always downloading. But yeah, if you go onto the Primrose Cottage stitches and sign up to the newsletter, you should get a free cross stitch pattern. So look out for that, which is well worth it. But yeah, so I think if you look closely as well, you'll see WIPGO weekends, and I didn't get to stitch on my WIPGO project. So usually it's the second weekend of the month you donate to your WIPGO projects. And I was looking forward to stitching on my Seaside Beacon, but yeah, this month for our family, just after Christmas, it's birthday, and I'm not talking extending, I'm talking close. So every week there's a birthday. So from the middle of January right up till the end of February, every week there's a birthday. So we've been really busy because we all meet up and what have you. And so my WIPGO weekend just went there. And I did put on the 9th I was going to make a small. I was hoping to make this project, but that went out the window as well because we also had half term. So I looked after my granddaughters for one day, and I'm going to put some footage in now. They're so cute. When they come my house, they just love, the sisters, and they love to craft. So although Mum was at home, she's just had the baby, and I said, you know, I'll have the girls for the day. And they love to come. And as soon as they come, they're running upstairs into the craft room. And, oh yes, they expect to spend the day crafting, and crafting they did. So I'll just put a little bit of footage. So I'm so proud of them. The little one didn't just make cards. I thought we'd make a little doll's house. Now I've seen these like, I forgot what they call, like mouse houses. These, I don't know if you've seen, they're like these cute little vanity boxes. Not the ones they're using to put sewing kits in, but they're making them into little houses, and they're making like a little, you know, I've seen one with a, I'll pop a picture up, one with a rabbit, and there's one with a mouse. And I thought, oh, what a lovely idea. And I've got these boxes, they're getting faded now, and usually I just sometimes piece together fabric scraps, and I'll pop them in these little boxes, you see. And I thought, wouldn't it be nice for the youngest one to make one of these houses with a little mouse in? So I had some fencing left from a previous project I did, so we stuck that on, and then she had great fun sticking these flowers on, because I'm not going to use them. And I think I purchased this from the Works. And then this is inside the box. So basically this is the bedroom, and then this will be the lounge, you see. I wish now I've got lots of craft papers. I wished I'd like wallpapered the back, and I'm going to see if I can still do that. But we used a little frame and we made a little window there, and then that's a little mirror. That's as far as we got. Now I have got a mouse pattern. I made the Molly and Mama Christmas stocking, and it had a little mouse in it, and I was looking everywhere for it and I couldn't find it. But I've got these little wooden people, and I've got a book where we can make clothes for that. So she drew these little faces on. But then it was time to go out for our tea, so we didn't get any further. Having said that, I've now found my mouse pattern. So it was hiding in this folder. So this was a holiday folder. It was a project I made at Liberty Bell again. And yeah, I found all these patterns in. So I've got my mouse now, so I can make that. So I'll make that, and then when she comes up next time we can decorate the house, and the mouse will have a little bed and everything. But just quickly, look at these I found. And I've been turning my craft room upside down for these. So this is Hatched and Patched, a Christmas tree skirt. This is, they're all Hatched and Patched patterns. All is Merry and Bright project bag. And then here's a kit for the Peace and Joy wall hanging. I think I bought that a couple of years back, maybe, from Poppy Patch. I mean, how ridiculous. So anyhow, I'm thinking, well, I might make a, is it Christmas? I might do the Christmas in July. And these are all Christmas projects in this book, and I don't know why I've put them in here. I haven't got a clue. Nothing to do with Christmas. But still, I found them, so that's good. So when she comes up next time, like I say, I'll have the mouse made and we'll decorate the house. Having the girls just reminds me of my embarrassing moment. So should we say embarrassing moment of the week? Right, we just had a Sainsbury's built where I live, and everyone's, you know, in this hype of excitement over the supermarket opening. Anyway, after the girls had finished crafting, we went out for tea, and on the way we'd seen, you know, the Sainsbury's all lit up, and Dave said, oh, is it open? I said, well, I don't know, what did it say on the Facebook group? And he says, I can't remember if it said the 20th. So we just thought, oh, it must be open, because there was lots of cars on the car park. Anyhow, we said, after we've had tea and dropped the girls off, we'll go. So we did. And when we drove on, there was all metal railings everywhere and all tape over the car park. You know, that tape, you know, cordoning sections off. And these like traffic cones. The petrol station wasn't open, but the Sainsbury's was lit up. Anyhow, we managed to park up, and we then couldn't find the entrance, and we're looking, and there was all like railings at the front, but there was a door open, so it was all propped open. And so we went walking in, and this Sainsbury's worker followed us in. He got his, like, you know, the Sainsbury's uniform on. Anyhow, we walked in, and we're looking round, sort of, well, where are the tills, where's the entrance? And Dave went, well, that's the Argos there. And there was all these people, and then I realised, I thought, in a minute, they're not customers, they're shelf stacking. They're all wearing black and they're shelf stacking, you see. And then these two men come over to us and said, excuse me, can I ask you what you're doing? And I said, well, we thought, you know, we've come in and do some shopping. And he said, we're not open yet. He says, and I don't even know how you've got onto the premises. And I said, well, we've just come through. He says, that's a fire door. And we said, oh, we're very sorry. Anyhow, we went, he says, we're open next week. So we went walking out. Dave says, I didn't like to say, you know, you shouldn't have your fire door propped open, but still. And I said, well, why didn't that bloke who followed us in tell us? Anyhow, we drove off with his tail between his legs and went to the corner shop. Anyhow, my friend come round for a coffee last week, and she says, have you been into the new Sainsbury's? The first 50 customers get a free for life bag or something, or life bag for life or something, but you get it free. And I said, no, we went in the week before, and I can tell you now we didn't get a free bag. But anyhow, that was my embarrassing moment. I didn't know where to put my face. Anyhow, back to my projects. So if you look on Friday, I've put backstitch projects. And the thing is, I've got lots of you know, I like my dimension kits to cross stitch. And there's a couple of projects where I just need to finish off the back stitching, and this was one, this little petite. Now I've finished putting all the French knots on for the snow now, and I've finished the back stitching, and it does bring it to life. I wasn't going to show it again, but I just think it's such a shame, because it really does make a difference when you complete the back stitching. So that was that. I managed to get that done. Now I'm still working on my, is it Glory of Autumn? So this is in its frame at the moment, and there is a lot of back stitching. Now I was back stitching this as I went along, and it was going great guns, but when I got to this bit I just carried on cross stitching. So I've finished the roof now, stitching on the roof in here, and I've started the water wheel, and I've had to do all this as well. But it, like I say, it brings it to life. So you can just see I've started there. So I've got to carry on round here, and then there's two little ducks down here, and do a bit of finagling there, and that should be completed. So I shall carry this across to February projects. But I'm really pleased with how this is looking, and I think I've got a couple of trees I've got to put some branches in. I would say another couple of days at least on this. So yeah. Right, so I have put for the 22nd fabric scrap project, and on the 23rd I put project bags. So I'll just show you these project bags I've made. Let me just... Right there. So let me show you. What I've done is I've combined that. So I thought I'll use some fabric scraps in the project bag. So this is my first one. So again, I've made a cross stitch one, and I love that. That's a little tomato button. So all that is I've cut the shank off and I've glued it to the popper. Isn't it cute? So this fabric I purchased from Florida. and I've used some scrap green round the edges, and then I've put a pocket in, and again this is scrap fabric. You might recognise that wood. That was from my pumpkin quilt I made. I'm not going to go through the project what I've put in. This was some plastic I'd left, you know, from, I think it was Annie's Arts or something. Well, I can't remember. But this was some vinyl I'd left over. And I've made a little tiny needle book to go with it. And then I used, do you remember this fabric? I used it in this project bag. This is my Christmas one. And I wish now I hadn't used the wood. I wish I used this because I think it really goes well. And again, it's got the little popper with the tomato on. And then you open it out. And I've got my I've got my needles ready. 2 little pockets there. And some felt for my needles. So yeah, that's my first one. Yeah, it's all fastened up nice. Doesn't that, it looks so much better, doesn't it, that? I wished I'd bound it now with that, but never mind. Ah, dear. Let's just fasten it up again. Set. So that's that one. Then I had a panel, and I bought it from a shop in Florida when I was there. I think it might have been Rainbow's End. And it was by Michael Miller, and it was called Vintage Perfumery. So here is my next project bag. Isn't that gorgeous? Isn't it lovely? And I went to Holly's Haberdashery, and I chose this. I think this might be an Andover or a Makua fabric, but she helped me pick it out. It was this lovely cerise. We thought that was just picking up, you know, with the flowers, you know, the colours. So inside here I used the Tilda fabric again with the cerise in, and then I just used a beige fabric for the pocket, and I've edged it in the cerise because I thought the beige would go well with that colour there. So yeah, that's my beautiful project bag. I love it. And then my piece de resistance is this one. Can't wait to use this. Isn't that gorgeous? I love it. I've had to order some more bosal because these have got bosal in them to give them the, you know, the strength. So this fabric here was from my stash, and this one I remember I've purchased this to make a project bag years ago from I think it was called the Three Crafty Ladies, and it was on Periwinkle Way on Sanibel Island, and I just wish I'd bought more now. I need to get some blenders. I tend to go in shops and buy pretty fabrics, but it's the blenders that I need. Now, because it had got fruit on the front, I picked out this cherry button from my stash. And I've used Velcro because I've stitched the button on this time. Okay. Now inside, I've used this lovely fabric. It's called Ticking, and it's by the Henley Studio, and that's, I'm pretty sure that's Makua or Makawa, however you want to pronounce it. Now I didn't have any of that nice thick vinyl left, so I just used some plastic. So there we go. Got a zip in there, and then here I've used some fabric from Stash. It was just a piece I had, and it's a Tilda one. It's a vintage flower, I forgot what collection it's from, but it's a Tilda fabric. And then what I've done, again, I've used the scrap fabric. So this is from a dress I made. It was William Morris inspired fabric, and I got quite a bit of it left. So, you know, you get like when you cut round the sleeves and all that, you get these big scraps left. So that's what I've used. So I'm quite pleased that I'm managing to get my scraps down, and that's for the pattern, you see. So I've used a hard interfacing as well, and then I bound it in some more fabric I got from Holly's Haberdashery, and that was in this linen. They're on a website. They got them in pale pink and pale blue, and that's what I purchased. So yeah, I think it's lovely. I'm so proud of this. Love it. So yeah, it's just this odd panel I had, and I thought, well, I'll use it up and I'll make myself a couple of project bags. There we go. Right, so that enabled me to mark those off in pale green. So yeah, it was just the smalls really in the WIPGO weekend that I missed out on, but I don't think I've done too bad. I hope you enjoyed this vlog, and if you have, please give me a like and subscribe if you haven't, and yeah, tell your mates about me. And also, can I ask you to please leave me a comment? It really does help me with the YouTube algorithm. So until I see you next week, I'm hoping then to upload a vlog all about my plans for my March crafting, and also I'll show you what I've kitted up in my new project bags. Until I see you, bye.